Hey, good everybody. Still here for the Daily Market Pulse. Stocks extend themselves again. We saw the S&P actually making a new high once again. Consequently, we're going to make the uptrend resuming at this point, especially since the Nasdaq bumped up a little higher. There may still be some trouble. There's actually going to be some distribution days already going to be sort of added back on. Usually, when you have a correction that wipes out all the distribution days, but because it wasn't a real deep correction, it was more of a large dip. The distribution days we're going to keep count, and there's going to be like essentially 8 on the Nasdaq, 5 on the S&P. So I didn't put them there for now, but they will be there by tomorrow. So Dow Jones a little higher once again, making a new high here relative to the last couple of months. Not quite at the peak. In fact, it's right there. It's right at the peak, almost right there is the high. So you're essentially right there with room still to the 1272. The S&P, as I said, made a new high. So that is not only clearing, but also now, as of yesterday, bumping up even higher with the Bollinger Bands now opening. So there's even more room now toward 1900 plus. Support will be 1880, 1885. The Nasdaq bumped up a little bit higher, as you can see here, but not by much. It gapped higher, then faded a little bit, but still finished positive, just barely over the 42.75 area, but still room now to 43.50 and so on. TSX, it's forming a shooting star now, that exact resistance area that I mentioned yesterday, day before, or Friday, Monday I should say. So shooting star. The target's been hit. Bollinger Bands are barely opening, but there's a shooting star. It looks fairly decent still, but it needs to close above this level of 14.4, getting closer to 14.5 ideally, but essentially it's overbought, but we'll see what this does, if it confirms to the downside as true resistance or not. US dollar, Canadian dollar, just kind of still going sideways at 110 for the time being, looking like it might be pausing maybe for a bump higher, possibly anyway. Treasuries continued their descent, stopped at the 20 yesterday, into the 50 today, right at a 131, essentially 132 level support. The next level below is going to be 131, possibly lower, but essentially if this continues, then we're looking at 131 if the market's going higher. Japanese yen was at one point looking fairly strong, but has since really started to fade now into and beyond the support practically at 96. Next level would be 95.50 if it keeps going. Otherwise, we're looking for a bounce back toward 97 to 97.5. Gold found a 1280 support and target that we discussed before. It bounced with a bullish engulfing. We're looking for some kind of a follow-through continuation confirmation from here back toward 1320. Otherwise, a fade below 1280 takes you back to 1240. Silver, you can see how gold has been going down several days, and only today now has bounced. Silver has gone sideways for 3 consecutive days and now a fourth. So it's actually holding fairly steady with a little bit of room to 1950 still. And we will see how that goes. Crude will be next as we look at that. Crude had a big decline, as you can see. Yesterday and then today came off the 50, bounced with after making a new low, and forms a doji formation with a slightly lower close than yesterday's close, right around 99.5, with room back toward 101 and 102, which is what the anticipation might be. So there's a lower trend line, as you can see right here, and there's a top trend line coming off the high, so it's very much in a wedge formation, pennant formation, looking for resolution above 101 or below 99. Let's go to small caps, because small caps being risk on. What is it exactly telling us? Well, you see it's not like the S&P nor the Dow. It's not making new highs. It's still lagging like the Dow. I'm sorry, like the Nasdaq. So it's decent. It's had 3 consecutive days off a bounce of 114 into the 118.5 level. Room to 120, 120.5, but it doesn't look very robust for a risk-on kind of market thus far. The VIX also has not really faded. The markets are going higher. The VIX is barely budging. It's holding this 1350 level reasonably well. So I'll be very curious to see what it does going forward and how the markets respond as well.